All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's Thursday, September 19th, and I'm happy to be in front of you for another Kelvin's Keys to Success training. So we're really want to get back into what's the fundamentally most important thing in every transaction. And what is that piece? That piece is the residential purchase agreement, RPA. The resident purchase contract is the governing document signed by whom? The parties, buyer and seller. And they're making an agreement. One is trying to sell the property, and this buyer is trying to buy it for a certain price. But everyone thinks that price is the most important aspect of a purchase. And I can tell you, as a broker doing many different various types of transactions, and I've seen this, sometimes there's also the terms that are also very important, how we structure our transactions, that may or may not be the deciding factor between rejection and acceptance. So it's important you as realtors all understand and fully understand how we can structure our deals to our favor, to protect our clients, to gain acceptance. There's different ways and terms and check boxes that you will fill out and complete when you write offers. Each of them are going to be case by case, depending on the property type, whether there's land or whether it's a condominium or whether you're dealing with a duplex or just a single family, whether it's renters, tenants occupied, or whether it's going to be delivered vacant, whether you have a fixer-upper, brand new. No matter what, you always want to be using your mind and brain in structuring your transaction, not only to gain acceptance and just give in to whatever the seller's listing agent wants you to write, but at certain times you have to also compromise certain areas, whom to pay for what, whom is going to be quicker on your contingency periods. And those are all deciding factors that could separate your success from rejection. So that's my opening on the purchase contract and why you need to know it very well. What I'm going to do is log into my MLS. And is there any property that you guys are taking a look at, or you want me to just pick any random property and write an offer? I will go ahead and pick a random offer then. For our purposes, I'll just pick one that's within our company, so that way we can just speak forward on, just something that we have knowledge and we have control over. So imagine this scenario, hypothetically speaking. We have a lot of different types of properties here for sale, and for our learning purposes, let's just go ahead and take a look at a property that's a single family. Okay. Now, we have a nice little beautiful listing over here in Arcadia that I want to highlight, and I'll share with you. This 1025 El Sur Avenue in Arcadia. It's got a nice almost 20,000 square foot lot size, high sales price. This is pretty much a mansion. And what you can see here is you have a property that's nicely manicured and landscaped. You have a property that has a large lot. I can see solar panels installed. I see some plants and a pool house or pool structure, I'm sorry, rear area here. So you can kind of tell, wow, it's okay. You got beautiful marble floors, very lavish decorative columns in here, beautiful chandelier, wrought iron handrails, custom wainscoting right here. This is a gorgeous looking property with soffit ceilings and all of the wonderful things that I can point out lots of different cool things. So when we're looking at this type of gorgeous property, one of the things that comes to my mind is, if I'm a buyer, what is the stuff that I need to do to write an offer And in this situation, there are many elements in here of question marks, like what's included, what's not included. If I'm a buyer, is these curtains and drapery included? How about this gorgeous, beautiful mirror? Is that included? Chandelier? Okay. You'll have situations where you as an agent need to educate your client to let you know in advance if there's certain items that you want to be asking for uh, in the offer, and to make sure you have or excluding. Second thing you have to do is always check the bar, check the kitchen, because appliances need to be checked off too as well. And so I'm here to tell you, if you see the item is attached to the structure with a nail or a bolt, or for example, this light fixture, it is considered a fixture. But the television is not a fixture. The owners can take this take this personal property with them, along with all the furniture like sofas and tables. But the bracket, if you have a wall bracket, the mount is supposed to stay with the property. Okay, just giving you the little tips while we go over it. I can see here there is blinds, window blinds. These are fixed to the windows and doors. These remain on the property unless otherwise specified. But if it's held to the wall with a simple nail like this clock, that is still considered personal property. Art pieces as well, when they're just hanging on the wall. So if it's just hanging on the wall, that's not a fixture. Okay. Something like this. These are your light fixtures. These are down lights at your bar. Very lovely. They stay. And obviously, if you have any questions, let me know. But I can see in here now, I see you have certain appliances like your range hood here. You have a dishwasher here, and you have a refrigerator right here that's built into this perfect little closet. So this definitely is something that I, as a buyer's agent, ensure that I check to be included with sale, because it's going to be hard to match an exact fit. Okay. So now that we have an idea of what we're dealing with, laundry is never automatically included. You need to check the box for washer and dryer. Okay. All right. So we got a feel for the property. We got a feel for this and that. If there's no other questions, then we're going to go ahead and start learning how we're going to write our offers properly. Notice how you have multiple appliances. This is like a secondary oven, I think, or some sort of microwave or oven, and you have a second kitchen back here for cooking, and maybe it's a additional second kitchen that you need to make sure you're including both of the appliances in both kitchens. All right, so that's the gorgeous property. Here we are. Here's how easy it is to write an offer. I'm going to take this MLS number and copy it. Then I'm going to go into my MLS car, log in, so that way I can get into my zip forms as we prepare for writing an offer. As I get in and log in, I'm going to stop sharing so I can make sure you see my screen, and I'll pop it right back in. Any questions? If no questions, let's get right into this, how to prepare our offers and structure them properly. And imagine the scenario where we are representing the buyer. So I would need to be protecting my client, and I'm going to be writing a new purchase offer. So I'll structure it and talk to us about ways to, some tips on how you can do this quickly as well. So first thing you see, I put a residential property. I usually will put the address. I call it Big Elsir. And I'm going to go ahead and just MLS Connect. I like to use the photo, and I like to put in the MLS number here, because it makes it a lot quicker for me to fill out all of the other details that can be pre-populated automatically for me into the offer just by doing this one step. So now that I have the property connected to the MLS, then I'm going to save this and write an offer. So the first thing that pops up on the sidebar would be the purchase contract right here. So that'll be my first item, okay? Just a quick tip for you guys is use a cover sheet. It helps populate many different areas throughout your contract and all the other disclosures. So I like to teach you guys the right way. So here I'm going to call the buyer's name, and I'll just call it Big Bucks Bob. And his email would be bigbucks@aol.com. All right. And then I have buyer 2. I just call her Sally Smart, and her email is sallysmart@gmail.com. Okay. I don't need to put the seller's name. I could if I want to. In certain instances, I will, but I'll teach you how to do it if I wanted to do it. Okay. I'm gonna do what's called some I'm going to do some what's called background. So first, for background wise, my first step, I want to double check the commission. All right. That's a nice, healthy compensation. If I sell this property for $3.7 million, guess what, guys? That's $100,000 commission to you for selling one home. Okay. That's no joke. If you sell this one house, 3% times 3.7 is how much? Sorry, I'm doing my calculator. 111,000 if you sell it at 3.7 million. Okay. So who would like to earn $100,000? All of us, 111,000. To me, the property is not priced outrageous. It's only $590 a square foot for a great location in Baldwin-Stalker, Arcadia. And you get a huge lot. You have solar. You have everything is move-in ready. So to me, this property kind of sells itself. It's not like you're telling someone not to buy it. You just need to find the right buyer. Okay. So if you want to earn $111,000, the homework that I do, you can see here they increased the buyer's brokerage commission until 12/31/2023. And submit an offer. Sometimes I look in here for instructions to how to show it. It is occupied by the owner right now, so you have to make an appointment. That's easy. Make a contact. The other thing I want to do homework is I check this little realist profile button because I want to know some background regarding the history. So as I pull up the realist profile, I can double check the purchase. They purchased, okay, I'm sorry. This is built in 2014. You have the owners over here. So I do know the owners' names. There's a Tahinder, Kamalpreet, and a Nakat. So these owners are going to, because I don't want to fill in 3 names, I'm going to leave names of the sellers out. If there's 2 names, maybe I would include it. It's R1 zoning. I look at the APN number. I'm going to copy that real quick. And I am going to take a look at the tax information. I can double check the lot size and the square footage. And everything looks good to me. So I can also, if I really wanted to, see how much they purchased it for. And they bought it for $3.1 million in 2019. We all know that 2020, 2021, and 2022, the last 2-3 years, there's been strong appreciation. So for an owner to just make and try to sell it for 3.7 million, considering all the appreciation that we had, which is greater than 25% over the last 3-4 years, I think it's reasonable for the seller to ask for 3.7. Okay. So take a look at all this, and you have the structure back here. So now I have everything I need to write the offer. Okay. I was debating whether I was going to write the seller's name. In my situation, I'm not. And that's it for me. So I filled in my cover sheet. I need to fill in my information because I'm representing the buyer. And okay. And let's just say that I'm ready to go. Okay. Now, I like to put in my office information too, because that allows me to have all the future fields already pre-populated in. So now that I have the license numbers inputted, I save. I can go back into my transaction purchase contract, and you will notice I only have to focus at the first 3 pages of the purchase contract, and everything else is already finished for me. So first, I'm representing Sally Smart and Big Bucks Bob. And I just, my tip for you guys is to go ahead and, don't just do all lowercase, make it look good. I'm putting in my name, and my license information is all in there. So I can now go straight into the offer. This is where we put in today's date, preparing this contract. Okay, that's today, September 19th. In this situation, this is because it's our listing, we're representing both sides. In your situation, normally you're going to be representing the buyer only, and go ahead and just write the seller only. Check that box for the seller's agent. Let's imagine we're giving $3.7 million offer. Okay. Now, this is a discussion I have with my client. How do we structure and know what price to write? That's how you want to conduct your business is up to you. Normally, when I write an offer, I ask the client, okay, what do you have in mind? What are you thinking about writing the offer? Because it could be any number that they want to write. Technically speaking, the buyer could say, I want to write $3 million only. I could write it up for $3 million. But in getting and gaining acceptance, normally I actually advise you to build a relationship with the listing agent. Communicate. Pick up the phone, call the listing agent. Hey, I'm Kelvin Chang, Coldwell Banker Dynasty. I really wanted to thank you for setting up our appointment last week on the Saturday. My client and I love your beautiful listing, and we want to write an offer on the home. Listing agent, do you mind sharing a little bit of background and details? We had a couple of questions before we prepare an offer. Great, thank you. Is now a good time to talk, or you want me to try a different time? Because you might be driving or something, and you want to be respectful. And then if they give you the green light to talk now, then you go ahead and say, okay, great. One of my first questions, listing agent, my buyer asked me, it's such a beautiful home. Is there a reason? What's the reason why the sellers are selling the property? And then they'll say, oh, okay, they just want to downsize, or they want to move closer to family. I don't care what the reason is. I just want to get some background. Do you know if there's any significant or material items to disclose regarding this particular transaction off the top of your head? Anything that come to mind? Okay. Any defects or anything broken? Nothing? Okay, great. Perfect. Then we'll write our offer accordingly. Um, Thirdly, my third question, to really just help my client, advise them on the what it's going to take. Can you share with me a little bit of background on how many offers you're dealing with at the moment? Okay. Don't, when you ask a question, pause. I need them to hear the response. Okay. So if it's a brand new listing, they might say they have a lot of people. If it's something that's sitting on the market for, 60 days, they probably don't have anyone that they're dealing with. So that leverage of lack of activity is going to inform me how to guide my client. So one of my first questions too would be, do you have any active offers right on the table right now? And I ask that question. And if they say yes, I know I might be in a multiple situation. Oh, you do have an offer? Okay, great. Well, is that offer realistic? Is it, how do you mind sharing to me um any details about the offer or what it's going to take to purchase this property? Obviously, my client is looking to get it at the best price, but I want to work and cooperate with you. Do you think an offer of 3.55 million will be strong enough? Okay. Whatever it is that my client kind of guided me, what their hope is, I'll try to gain some insights slash I'm reading their response language back to me, their hesitation. I'm looking for potential lies. I'm trying to double check if things match up accordingly to how I see this property. Because if it's sitting on the market for longer than 60 days, I would be very skeptical if they have an active, strong offer. And so I would try to obviously try to package this down and see if they will reveal their bottom line to me. So I don't mind as a professional asking, well, if you don't have any offers on the table, I'm sure you had some. This is such a beautiful listing agent. In all reality, I know it's been sitting on the market for 65 days on the market. Can you let me know what the bottom line is? I see that you have increased the commission amount. I'm motivated to help you sell this property. Listing agent, I know you want to get this into escrow too. What do you think we can structure this in terms of bottom line? Can you help me, guide me? Okay. Try. Normally, you're going to be writing offers at a 30-day period of time. You can usually go faster, like 25 days, if you have a client that is DU underwritten approved. Or if you have a cash offer, you can go like a 7-10 day offer if you really needed to. Don't leave this area blank. Every contract needs to have the 5 basic essential elements of a contract. One of them is a close of escrow, a period of time. Second item is the purchase price. Third item is the identify the parties. Fourth item, you got to identify the property. So all of these are essential elements that you as an agent need to make sure is not left blank. You could leave the expiration date as 3 days. That's fine. And you can go ahead and just write in. I normally write in offers around 3%. So in this instance, it's going to be 110,000 if I'm doing my math in my head right. 111% is 3%. Okay. And loan amount. Most times people put in something like this, maybe 30% down or 25% down. So let's just imagine they're putting $1 million in. Actually, they want to get under the jumbo threshold. So we'll put it around 986,000. Oh, I'm sorry. That's down. So they want to borrow let's just say 2.8 million. Okay. And they're going to finance, they're going to put about 900,000 down and put in 2.8, 75% loan. Okay. So going down here, I can check if it's conventional, which it is. then I'm going to go ahead and leave it blank. Now, some people ask, what do I do about the interest rate cap or points? Well, I'll tell you, it's not a bad practice to put a cap to the maximum that your client is willing to do. But make sure your cap is above or at current market rates. So right now, market rates is around 7.5%. Maybe you put it at an 8% cap, because obviously if they get 8% financing, I'm sure the buyer, if they get their price, I'm sure they really want to proceed forward. So it's this. What does this mean? If my client gets financing at 10% approved, it gives me the ability for my client to cancel the transaction as a contingency, because it's greater than my cap of 8%. Okay, it gives me options as a buyer's rep or buyer to cancel, or I could, if it's 10% and I still want it, I could still proceed forward. It just gives me an element, an escape route to back out in the event I don't get the rates that are anticipated to me. Because who knows, rates have been crazy. It could suddenly jump from 8% to 10% by tomorrow. There actually is a Fed meeting coming up, and I think they're going to raise it 25 basis points. So if there's a drastic increase, I just need to be able to protect myself from the market conditions that I don't know what the heck is going to happen in the Fed. So if you want to be a great agent, you use this cap or the points or both to give yourself more excuses or reasons to cancel as a buyer's rep. If you're a listing agent rep, make sure you check this area to see, is their caps reasonable or not? Because if they give a cap like this today to me, and this buyer's agent, I'm a listing agent now, if I see this, I'm automatically going to have to counter this, because I know they're not going to get 5% interest rates, and I don't want to give them to allow this excuse contingency to go underneath my eyes. I need to be knowledgeable enough to say that this is not right. There's no one going to give you 5% for $2.8 million. You're giving an impossible cap that I don't need. You can't have this. You can't overprotect your client. Okay. So that's how I would make sure and ask you to double check and read everything. If you simply check this box right here, the lender is going to give them the investor's rate, which is higher than the residential homeowner's rate. Okay. This is where you ask for closing costs. In certain instances, like FHA loans or VA loans, you may want to ask for closing costs, and maybe you want to ask for a buy down and reduction of the rate, and you can put it down right here. I want $10,000, for example, to be credited to my buyer's lender or for my closing costs. And that's where you get to put it if you are going to try to negotiate for it. So here's what I've seen, and I've done this myself. Okay. Remember, the full price is 3.78, right? Okay. And the listing agent says, Kelvin, my seller is very tough. They will only consider offers that are at full price or above. Okay. I got you. I hear you loud and clear. So what do? I told you in the very beginning of this class, it's on price and terms. I'll give him 3.78 million. And then I can simply put right here an $80,000 credit to my closing costs, in which I can use it towards my points, towards my down payment, towards my buying my rate down lower with additional points. I can use this towards potentially credit for some repairs that I want to do in escrow, or there's some creative ways I can teach you how to spend this $80,000. But I'm not going to teach you this because I have outside the box strategies. you got to call me on your transactions if you want to know it. Okay. So additional finance terms. This is sometimes where I like to show off or write good things or protective things, depending upon how I'm phrasing things. So I might write conventional financing, buyer is DU approved for 75% loan to value. I could write something like that, but I can only write what is truthful. So in certain instances, I could even, if I really wanted to be aggressive towards this property and I know it's multiple offers, I don't mind writing no appraisal contingency, checking this box, and I want them to know, right? I want them to know we're serious. I could write that, okay? No appraisal contingency. And I want the sellers to know loud and clear that I mean business and I'm here. My client is serious about purchasing. So this box is called a DU, fully underwritten pre-approval, which is what I'm claiming. That means that they ran the credit scores. In your situations, most buyers don't like to run the credit early, so you'll probably be in this box, a pre-approval. Okay. I do like to attach my proof of funds and down payment closing costs. So I like to make sure I give it to them attached to the offer. In some situations, you can say, okay, I'll give you my verification of all cash in 1 day after closing. And you could do that if you really want, after acceptance. You could do that if you want to. And I leave most of the other areas blank, but I want to teach you assignment requests is a very important area if you're a listing agent and you're dealing with investors, buyers, or tricky people, or fix and flippers, or people who sell contracts wholesale. There are many of them out there that are trying to write offers to you, and then they're going to sell this to someone else and wholesale it for a small assignment fee. I educate you to look for this area / counter this area if you have a situation like I want all assignment requests to be modified to be 5 days from acceptance, meaning they better do their assignments within the first 5 days, not all the way near the end of the escrow when, you know, it's just kind of too many changes too late in the game. So I want this to help me know if they're serious or not, so I can reduce this to 5 or 7 days. Now, the loan contingency as a buyer's agent, as a buyer agent, I first for up here, I know that my client is going to assign this to their trust. So I know that I can, you know, so if that's my knowledge, I can still have them write it as individuals, and boom, I have 7 days to put in an addendum together that this property is going to be purchased and completed by the trust. Great. I talked and I'm planning in advance. Now, loan contingency. 17 days is sufficient and standard for the loan. You want you very rarely ever do not want to have no loan contingency, unless you're really aggressively confident that you'll get the financing and you really want to show the seller you mean business. But this is what it is. I have no problem if for those of you who want to keep your appraisal contingency, that's fine. 7 to 10 days is already sufficient enough for you to do your appraisal. Okay, so keep it within 7 or 10 if you want to improve the appearance of your contingencies. Okay. This is sometimes you can write, you know, if you have an FHA buyer and the appraisal value is very important, this is an area that I say, if this property does not appraise for 3.6 million or above, I need to cancel this property because I can't get the financing. Then I need to put my minimum appraisal amount right there. Okay, that's a contingency. All right. Now, this property, investigation of property, is split into multiple portions. This portion up here is considered your contingency period. By default, it's 17 days to investigate the property and all aspects and characteristics and background and history and permits and size and square footage and living area, lot size, zoning, buildability, all that stuff that we got to advise our clients to make sure they're satisfied with must be done in these 17 days. However, if you want to improve the quickness and the appearance of your offer, I've seen many people do 7 and 10 days is sufficient enough too. Okay. So if 10 days is sufficient for me to investigate and order a home inspection and even order a supplemental roofer or a plumber or electrician. If I really wanted to buy this property and I want to make sure I get it, I would reduce my time frames just to be better in paper than the other competition. But again, it's all depending case by case on your client's schedule or whether you're going on vacation or not, or this and that, whether it's tenant occupied. This portion is access to the property. This is not necessarily a contingency. This is an area just that the buyer has 17 days to come into the property and access. Technically speaking, let's just say 10 days passes. They ask me to remove all contingencies or the inspection contingency. On the 11th day, I remove my investigation contingency. Okay. I technically still have access to the property, even though within 17 days, even though I remove the contingency. But for you listing agents out there, you kind of want to limit and match the access along with the contingency period. Why? Because if this is like written like this, 10 days informational access, that means from the moment of 11 days and forward on until the final walkthrough, I do not need to grant access to the buyer from day 11 to day 25. They don't need to come into the property. So this is a way to contractually avoid them causing more issues. And sometimes the buyers will want to do a couple of different sneaky but tactful strategic things. Sometimes if I'm a buyer's agent, I keep this blank. And I say, okay, I have access to the property for 17 days by contract. Yes, we removed our investigation, but we still have our loan contingency of 17 days, correct? So in this situation, day 10 comes, day 11, I remove my inspection contingency. But my buyer says, hey, Kelvin, I want to go check out the property. I have a handyman that I want to ask to give me some quotes and estimates on the property. I noticed the inspection report has some issues with the roof, and I noticed there's some issues with the foundation. I want to have a foundation person come in and also my plumber to check on the leaky valve or the leaky faucet or something. I don't care. So if this is written this way, if day 16, they come in, technically, I have to grant them access because they have a contractual period of time to come in. Even though they remove their investigation period contingency, then they have quotes, okay? And the plumber says, wow, this is inside the walls. You got to tear this out. And the structure guy says, oh my gosh, you have slippage on your foundation. This is a cracked concrete barrier. You need to repair this and this and that. What I'm telling you is that day 10 to day 17, while this buyer is still getting some more information, getting more quotes, mindset changes when they see dollar signs and how much it costs them to spend on the purchase, right? So then they get, oh, wow, okay, I got to pay $30,000 to the structural foundation person and another $12,000 for my plumber. Yikes, I didn't anticipate that. can I still cancel, Kelvin? And as a buyer's agent, I say, well, you're not supposed to cancel based on your inspection period items. So technically, no, we shouldn't be canceling on that. However, you still have your appraisal, you still have your loan contingency, 17 days. So we should be canceling based upon a loan reason. Okay. So then by giving them that information and access from day 10 to 17, as a buyer's agent, I can protect my client and escape this transaction. I'll say, well, lender, there's a foundation issue. We found out about this problem. And I don't know if your appraiser saw it or missed it or not. Can you have the appraiser write something up towards the foundation, or that it needs to be, this and this and that? There's technically, I can try to make an excuse to get canceled based on the loan or the the inability to finance the property, or if I use defects about that. There are many ways to do either a cancellation on the loan still, or as a buyer's rep, I can even use some of these repair quotes that I received, and I can still make an attempt to renegotiate. Even though I removed the investigation contingency, I still have my financing contingency, and I, as a buyer's rep, can still negotiate / threaten not to complete the purchase and cancel if they don't honor meeting me halfway in our requests. There's $20,000, let's go 50-50. I can still make attempts. Is it dishonest? No, it's kind of just you protecting and representing your client well. As a listing agent, I would be pretty upset, meaning they removed the inspection. Why are they asking for a request for repairs? But if it's related to the appraisal, then it's kind of important. So I can still have excuses to cancel / renegotiate. So as a buyer's agent, I just giving you some strategy to think about while you're negotiating and representing your client well. So I'm just telling you the access from day 11 to day 17 could shoot the listing agent seller in the foot. It could cause situations to have to give you more concessions to the buyer. Okay. So you wish to avoid access to the same day of the investigation of property, is my advice to you. Okay. There's a lot right there. Any questions? You guys are quiet. By default, I usually leave the rest of this blank. So buyer has 17 days to review seller's disclosures and documentation, or 5 days after delivery, whichever is later. If they give me the seller's disclosures day 16, I'm happy because I get to day 21 to review all of the documentation / use any item on the disclosures to cancel the transaction because it was delivered to me late. So there's all this stuff here, the review of the leased or solar lien items. Don't forget, if you investigate the property at day 10 and you never received a solar leased contract, you still have a contingency to cancel, even if you removed it over here, if they late delivered you the leased solar information. Okay. By default, you get the property 6 p.m. on the date of close of escrow. We all know that recording comes in before 12 or 1 o'clock. Sometimes I like to make it 2 p.m. to give my buyer the ability to get the keys sooner. Okay. And this is if you're going to allow seller, let's say 3 days after close of escrow, for them to move into their next home. And sometimes I give them 3 days. I don't like you guys to do it, but if that's what it takes and you have multiple offers, it's okay to give 3 days. if that's what it takes. Um, there's different, things that you should be checking off and verifying. And remember, I told you about the stove and the refrigerator, and I want the washer and dryers, and I want the dishwasher, and I want the microwave. I want security camera equipment and the video Nest thermal doorbell. I want the security system alarms, smart home control devices. This is a mansion, they have some. I want the brackets. Okay. I mean, in my situation, I want to make sure I'm just covering all of the bases. And if I hear that the seller, I just call it the grand foyer chandelier. Let's say the listing agent wrote that this item was excluded, then I'll follow the listing agent's instructions that the grand foyer has a chandelier to be excluded. I'll write it in. Okay. Because, that probably is some sort of memorabilia or very intrinsic value to the seller. There's no point. I want the property, not necessarily the chandelier. Now, if I'm in a high fire zone or in the foothills or in an area close to certain environmentally potentially hazardous areas, like next to a gas station, then I want to get an environmental. Typically, in the rule of generally speaking, listing agents tend to want to have the choice of most services. So I'll just go ahead and let seller's choice. For today's training, I'll just teach it like that. Buyer's going to pay for their own home inspection report. And this is how I write for termite. So the reason why I put it like this is because number one, it fits. It does not require a text overflow addendum when I put this exact wording like this. Okay. I usually have the smoke detectors paid by the seller. And in Arcadia, there's no government point of sale inspections. As a refresher, El Monte has it. Pasadena has it. City of LA has it. Santa Monica has it. So they will have point of sale things that need to be corrected or checked, inspected by the city. Each pay their own fees. I like to use Perfect Escrow. And that goes over here. Seller pays for title. Sometimes I'll just go ahead and give it seller's choice here. Most of the time for title. And then it's negotiable on transfer tax fees, but it's customary that sellers pay for it as long with HOA transfer fees and anything else that fees or costs. So if there's a lien and then my buyer says, I will not pay for a solar lien. Okay, great. Then I will ask for seller to pay a solar lien payoff in full. Okay. And I'll make the seller pay for this item. Okay. And in home warranty, sure, I'll ask for a home warranty, $750. All right, whatever it is. And then maybe I'll write buyer's choice. Or don't forget, we are a Crest affiliated office. So I'll probably write it something like this. And with the several Crest providers that we have. And sometimes I want to include roof, pool, and appliances. So these are the options that you can purchase and then pay for. If you're going to add lots of options, then maybe you're going to need some more money, like $1,000. Okay. Other terms is the area where you get to be creative. You also get to disclose. Okay. Kelvin, what does a buyer have to disclose? Okay, well, what if the buyer has buyer's licensed or the buyer's spouse is licensed and she's on the offer as well. So buyer is a California licensee. What if it's my relative? Okay, list buyer agent Kelvin Chang is related to the buyer. Okay, maybe Sally Smith is my or Big Bucks Bob is my brother-in-law or relative. Okay, so other terms can be millions of different things. That's why they don't give us a lot of lines, because CAR does not want us writing a lot of stuff, because quite honestly speaking, agents who write stuff in here are adding liability because you may not be writing things technically proper or covering all bases. So I like to add subject to. Offer is subject to property. Okay. If this is very important to my buyer, I will make sure and write in that it's subject to the property being delivered vacant prior to close of escrow. Okay. This is there's a lot of different things that I would write in here. Okay. So other than that, I just have to attach any other applicable disclosure or addendums in my situation. If I'm writing an offer on a short sale, I would use this short sale addendum. If I'm writing this property with the tenants inside, then I would write the tenant occupied property addendum to be included and have it completed. If I know they have a septic or a septic tank or a well, I would include this form right here. Okay. So you just got to be able to understand what is applicable in your situation. Like, is your buyer, this is the second leg of completing our 1031 exchange. Great. The money is in your accommodator's hands and we're giving a cash offer, but it's subject to this buyer's exchange addendum. So whatever your situation you're in, just check the right box, whether you maybe have a trust to seller or maybe you're dealing with a probate and there's a court involved. Okay. Everything else here is not for us to touch. So they just describe the terms and how the procedures for the buyer and seller to fulfill their each duties of this contract. So any questions right now? You guys are all quiet. If no questions, I'm gonna continue a little bit on some of these paragraphs on what I think is important for you to really, really know. You have 3 business days to deliver your initial deposit. Obviously, they're not open on Saturday and Sunday and holidays. The deposit is held in escrow, in trust, and cannot be released by the escrow holder without mutual buyer and seller consent instructions to release that deposit. When everyone is happy, everything is fine, the deposit is applied towards the purchase price. When you have a situation of a cancellation, typically some escrows will charge $200 to $250 cancellation fee, and you get the deposit is returned less $250 if your buyer cancels. The parties may not agree to release the deposit funds back to the buyer for a circumstance. I can think of hundreds, but here's a basic one. Let's say buyer sends a request for repairs to fix 5 items. Seller performs these 5 repairs, yet the buyer cancels due to the financing not getting approved. The buyer says, I want my full return on my EMD. Seller says, I paid for 5 items of repairs for you. I'm not giving you back your EMD. You're paying for it. So this, I want, half of it for the repairs I did. Now you have a situation of a dispute on the treatment of that deposit. Both sides have arguments. We are not lawyers or attorneys. We can't make assumptions slash give legal advice. So therefore, we have to say this is a situation. Look, we can communicate. My buyer wants this. We can negotiate. I understand you made those 5 repairs, and guess what? Those 5 repairs are still with you and your property, seller. Your home is now improved, and these items won't pop up in your next home inspection report because you completed them. Therefore, I understand your position. You want half of the deposit for that, but because these improvements benefited your property, we still want our full refund. They say no. How about this? $1,000, okay, given to your sellers, but give us the rest back. So that's me as a buyer's agent. I'm just going to try to get as much as I can back from my buyer because they do have some grounds. But I'm not an attorney, but I can negotiate and I can communicate. These are my client communicates to you. They'll give you $1,000 towards all those repairs. Give us the rest back so that we don't have a fight and we don't have to go through mediation. Is that okay? Great. Let's write it up that way then. And I tell my client, take it. That's the best thing you can do. Okay. So you'll have situations like this, and be cautious on, spending money on things until the contingencies are removed. That's why a lot of times termite is not performed until after all contingencies are removed, right? Before close of escrow, we do termite right in that closing period because that's $4,000 for fumigation that may or may not needed to be spent. Now the loan. Buyer has 17 days to get the loan and financing, and there is limits on the credits to buyer. So when I said there's $80,000 credit to buyer, I was there, you're not going to get closing costs that high. So you have to have talk to the lender on what are the limits on any credits allowable. The closing and possession. So if this is a primary residence, great. It's supposed to be delivered vacant. And every time you have a tenant being delivered with the property, you should use Form TOPA included in your offers. The condition must be the same relatively as it was in the same physical condition as the date of acceptance, not the date you wrote the offer, the date of the acceptance date. And so they should maintain the property, still pay the gardener, still pay the pool man, still maintain the structure and all of it, all the normal stuff. It's just removing the personal property and furniture. Okay. Any questions? If not, contingencies should be removed in writing. The property not appraising at the purchase price does not necessarily allow the buyer to cancel on the loan contingency. It's kind of just telling you that it's giving you the opinion of value of the property. Okay. So I'm telling you insurability of the property also is not a contingency. So you need to be able to order your fire insurance policy earlier, because if you remove your loan contingency and then boom, you find out that the property is not insurable, you don't have a very good excuse to cancel. Okay. Now, other than this, you have contingencies. Describes the appraisal contingency. You have to review leased or lien items like solars, and you have to review leased items like maybe they put up a nice little, I don't know, a pool equipment that's on financing. Okay. There's different things. These describe what are fixtures right here. So just make sure you refresh it and read the contracts. And that's pretty much it. Point of sale applies to certain cities, home warranty, statutory. These paragraph 11 is very important for you to read. These are the seller's statutory disclosures. These are the mandatory items that need to be involved and included in your single family 1 to 4 residential transactions. Like, for example, you must perform an ABID, agents. You must give a TDS, an SPQ, an NHD disclosure. You should be providing all of the forms that, like the fire hardening disclosure, if it is in a high or very high fire zone. So these supplemental disclosures, including lead-based paint if it's built before 1978, are all going to be in that seller's disclosure package. And here's more information about other disclosures. Seller has to give known material facts. They need to disclose anything significant and defective, broken, even past insurance claims within the past 5 years, and provide information or access or police reports. Okay, these are all information to share. Now, I've heard of situations where the seller says, "Oh, Kelvin, yeah, I had an insurance claim. Oh, I had a cannabis cultivation on a tenant who did this 4 years ago. Okay, do I have to disclose this?" Here's where you show them, yes, you do. There's a police report on this. Do you have an insurance claim on this? But I lost all my documentation. I don't need to disclose, right? No, you still need to disclose it, seller. Just because you don't have a receipt or a documentation does not mean you don't share it. You have knowledge. It's part of its history. There is records. There are neighbors who know about it. You have to disclose it somewhere in the TDS, SPQ, or ABID, and make sure you are not hiding or concealing these facts. Okay, buyers have the right to investigate. They can ask for more information. They can ask to get a copy of the claim supplement. They can ask for a police report. Okay. Time periods, important paragraph 14. Seller has to deliver all these items and they order disclosures and provide it within 7 days of acceptance. And buyer typically will have 17 days upon acceptance to review all the investigations that they have. Seller only has 3 reasons to cancel. The buyer fails to remove contingencies. Buyer fails to fulfill their end of the contract obligations, like delivering the EMD, or the seller has a right to cancel because the seller has a contingency that they placed. For example, purchase of a replacement property, seller's purchase of SPRP. Buyer has several ways to cancel. They could base on the seller's contingencies. They could base it on the contract obligations not performed by the seller. It could be based upon good faith that either the loan didn't come through or the appraisal didn't come through to their liking. And you have to provide a notice to perform before cancellations. So anytime there's a failure of action of a performance activity, notice to perform is what we use before you can cancel. Repairs. Repairs, obviously, even if it says sold as is, no repairs on the contract, does not mean repairs can still be negotiated or requested. So a buyer's agent every single time can still make an attempt to request for repairs and try to get reasonable things accomplished for their buyers, but the seller does not have to honor a request or respond. Seller does not even have to respond to your requests. Okay? Other than that, this describes your duties as a broker and agent. Escrow holder will follow all of these instructions here. And that's it. We finished the contract. As agents, we never recommend or not recommend any opinion towards liquidated damages or arbitration. We leave it for the buyer and seller to decide if they want to initial there or not. But it should match, meaning if the buyer writes it in, to make it effective, both parties have to be initialed in there on both sides. And if I'm representing a buyer that is going into a trust, I can go ahead and call it the if I already know the name, I can call it the Chang Family Trust, dated, 7/3/2000. Okay. So that if that's my name of my trust, I can put it there. And the two people authorized is Kelvin and whatever, Sally Smith. I put the names here. I don't need an RCSD form if I put the legally authorized signers right here, if checked. But if I put it in later on, then I need to add the RCSD form, representative capacity signature disclosure. So that's it. The seller would sign here to accept it. Just make sure your information is here, and you're supposed to sign on line item 1. You can have 2 agents if you wanted to. And any questions? That's it really for today's class. I hope you gained some tips here from the RPA in today's lesson. I'm trying to help you guys just understand they're not just price is what governs a transaction, any offer. You have to look at the terms. And I have seen and I fooled a listing agent in the seller credit to buyer because they overlooked it, in which they had to honor a credit of $20,000 to my buyer because I gave them full price, but they didn't realize that they had $20,000 to give back. So such like that, people are human, people make mistakes. And in my case, I had a listing agent fail to, and the seller who failed to see that portion. That's their fault if they executed the agreement into my favor. But you won't get it unless you try.
Kevin, can you give us a copy of what you did just now? Because sometimes it's too small letter, I cannot see clearly.
Yeah.
So we can take a reference when next time we make a offer.
Sure.
Okay, thank
you. I'm not going to email to everybody because it's not going to make sense. I'm going to put it right here in the chat right now. So I'll attach the file. And if you care to have it, just go ahead to download it real quick.
Chat?
Huh?
Where is it? No, I didn't see it on the chat.
Oh, it's going. It's coming. Just wait.
On our meeting chat?
You have it uploading. It's uploading right now, so you'll get it in your chat right now. Okay.
So we just click.
So you can just save a copy. I mean, this is just a regular offer with my information, but it's really just me telling you the areas of where we can negotiate, where we can improve our client, what to watch out for when we're a listing agent. And ultimately, it's more of the discussion, not this offer that I have sent to you right now. It's the discussion that's most important in learning.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Thanks for being here today with me. And for those of you who are going with us, the Car Reimagine Conference, we're going tomorrow. It's free for all car members in Anaheim. So you can register, you can still register for it. Make it a great day, guys.
Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.